Hi, and welcome to Do No Harm series. I'm Mary Von Ohlen, and I'm here with my colleague and friend Rebecca Karchere.
Hello.
Today, in this episode of the Do No Harm series, we're going to talk about, the experience of going to a general practitioner, and really the when and why to be your own general practitioner, your own general healthcare practitioner. When and why?
Right.
What are the reasons people go to see general practitioners? Why you might want to reconsider when is the best time for you to do so, and what your alternatives are that actually can be much more effective. Rebecca has a great experience as a nutritionist, also a medical intuitive and a healer. I have worked as a healer, also as a recovery coach, a holistic health coach, a number of different hats all in the holistic arena. And when we work in this field, we tend to walk the walk. Now, if you notice that I'm looking a little bit droopier than usual or my voice is a little off, it's because even alternative healthcare, holistic practitioners, sometimes we get run down and get sick as well. And I had a little cold, a little sore throat for just 2 days. And I thought I'd bring that up because one of the top reasons that people visit their general health practitioners is upper respiratory issues, or, oh, I have a cold, or I'm afraid I might have strep, or something like that. And so we're going to address that today, and I'll tell you why I did not go to the doctor and what my experience has been with going to doctors versus being my own practitioner and working with other holistic practitioners. Rebecca.
Okay, welcome everybody. We are putting this episode together and this series together for the fact that we're not trying to criticize the medical field for the sake of it, but rather coming from an experience that we've been on the other side. I have been in practice for almost 20 years, and I've been able to help people heal with natural means. And so, I'm coming from a place of experience, and that's why I am able to criticize the general practitioner experience, because I know what is possible. And I've witnessed it, I've experienced it, my patients have. And so we're sharing to bring awareness so that you can recognize your options and see, make better choices for yourself, because our society has brainwashed us to believe that this is how we do life. I'm sick, I go to the general practitioner, and that's what you do. And we're here to say, whoa, you may want to rethink that. Okay. So Mary, I don't know if you want to start with why you didn't go to the doctor personally, or if you want to start with why people generally go to the doctor, those statistics.
Yeah. Here, well, I'll share, I guess, personally first, and then we'll get to the statistics and put that all in context. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Let me backtrack and just jump on what you just said about the kind of being brainwashed or marketed or just taught to believe a certain way. And that, for example, we also, Rebecca and I, even very early in our lives, we're of course subject to the same type of brainwashing or marketing things out there pertaining to healthcare, or sick care, such as milk does a body good, right? Huge marketing campaign when we were kids. I bought into it early on. I think I came out of the womb not liking milk. I've never liked milk. I don't like cheese. People think I'm weird. It just doesn't resonate with me. I have no desire. And it's not a lactose thing. I like ice cream. But the milk does a body good thing. When I got to a certain age, and I had an older brother who was studying to become a clinical nutritionist at the time, he started educating me on some of these things and thinking very common sense. It started to make a big difference to me when I just looked at things through kind of fresh eyes and took an objective perspective, like, oh, wow, we're the only species on the planet, the only mammal that drinks milk from another mammal at all, much less beyond just the developmental time that makes sense to drink our mother's milk. So just these little tidbits, and I could go on and on about that, but not, that's not the point. The point is that we get it, we've been there. Let's look at these things from a fresh perspective, right? So that being said, these days, if I find myself getting run down, a big point I want to make about that first is that many people tend to be germ phobic, right? And also go into kind of a victim energy when it comes to being sick. For example, it's like, oh, who got me sick? Where was I? Rebecca was sick yesterday and I saw her. It's Rebecca's fault. First of all, it's nonsense, but it's also, how does that serve us? That would put me into a victim mindset. So I don't tend to be germ phobic. I tend to come from the standpoint that if it were just the germs alone that got us sick, we would all be sick all the time, right? We just keep continuously passing all this stuff to each other. So what's the variable there? And it's my own immune system. It's my well-being. And so I take responsibility. When I start to get run down, get sick, I take responsibility for that. It's because it's for an opportunity for me to wake up and say, oh, where are things out of balance? Last week there was too much saying yes, where maybe a couple times I should have said no, things like that, right? And so from that perspective, I know that it's about the terrain. It's about it's about my system. Why am I vulnerable or susceptible to getting sick at one particular time versus someone else? Okay. So I want to make sure I address the germs versus the immune system concept, because it's empowering to take responsibility. So that being said, let me flash back to the last time that I did see a medical doctor, a general practitioner, for being, sick. It was maybe 23 years ago. And I, even at that time, at age 18, I was aware that, I was aware of a lot of this holistic information, but I was not taking good care of myself. Let myself get run down summer after my senior year in high school. And I ended up with really, really bad tonsillitis, really bad. And so I finally gave in and went to a general practitioner who, guess what they did?
What did they do?
Prescribed me antibiotics, penicillin, in fact. Mm-hmm. And I got home, and I was desperate at this point. And I took it, and shortly thereafter, my entire lower body, my legs up and down, broke out in an awful, uncomfortable rash. So on top of not being able to swallow, being scared at how swollen my tonsils had gotten, feeling awful, now my body is having an extreme reaction to this treatment that was provided, that was the solution given to by my doctor. I had to go back, etc. So that's my last experience with
I love that story.
Going to the doctor for a sickness, right?
Yeah.
It didn't help. And I only went because it was at such an extreme. And I do believe that, there are times when extreme times call for extreme measures. And that's extreme to me, going to the doctor to take something like an antibiotic. But also my body had a very violent reaction to it. Now when I get sick, usually I can feel it coming on and catch it and not really fully manifest the sickness, right? I was busy this past week and kind of just had a lot of obligations. And by the time it caught up with me, I was like, oh yeah, that's what's happening. So I had to take a couple of days of rest, hydration, taking certain supplements, doing some self-care, like some EFT work, some holistic modalities to manage my stress and uncover, and also utilize part of Rebecca's technique, which is, I believe, also probably the healthcare of the future, which is being our own general practitioner, source energy technique, learning how to assess myself and see, is this viral, is this bacterial, where's this coming from, what's the emotional component to it where I can clear that. So I know I'm going on and on about this, but I just wanted to color this picture to you, the contrast from back then, where I was sick for a long time because I couldn't get better. I didn't take care of myself. I didn't apply the things I know now. And then I went to, where we're supposed to go, where we're taught to go, and I got worse. And it made it, last even longer. Versus today, where if I get run down, it might affect me, significantly for 2 days if I let it get past the point that I know to be more aware and catch it sooner. It's a big difference. It's a big difference. And people are still afraid. People say, oh, your throat hurts. Make sure it's careful. It might be strep. Have you gone to your doctor? And I get that all the time still. Mm-hmm. And I just laugh.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's why we're doing this show, because when we laugh, we sound insane. Right? Right. It's like Mary's lost her mind. So this show is to demonstrate how sane we are.
Yeah, yeah. And people get curious because when I don't laugh, when I politely say, well, feel a little defensive, got to defend myself, right? From the other people's fears they're projecting on me. I'll say, well, there are, well, what if you had strep? And I said, well, I've had strep, and you haven't gone to the doctor? No. I mean, I might go to, to a Rebecca or to my chiropractor, who also employs, TBM and different muscle testing and different techniques that assess what's really going on and what will best suit my immune system to conquer whatever it is, given those facts. But people sometimes will be curious and say, well so I'll take a natural antibiotic. What's that? And we'll talk about Congaplex or different options. So I think that there are people who are intrigued, and I think that's who we're speaking to, hopefully, in these videos, are people who, like yourselves who are watching, hopefully, that are open and looking for a different way because you resonate maybe with my experience that I had, over a couple decades ago, and because that's still going on for you, and you're getting frustrated and seeing this isn't necessarily working and doesn't really make common sense. There's got to be something in between that I can do. It doesn't have to be, maybe you're not ready to go, I'm never going to doctors. That's okay. But there are things you can do to lessen that and go less frequently.
Yeah.
At the very least.
So I'm writing a book. It'll come out next year, hopefully in June. And I get into the nitty-gritty of what we're talking about right now. On my website, and the way that I practice is only God heals. Period. End of story. The conventional medical model cannot heal. In fact, it's disease management. Because, for instance, I referenced that YouTube. No, I'm sorry, that was TED, where 97% of prescription drugs don't work as far as healing. As far as being a cure. Only 3%. And I don't know what those 3% are, but that would be a fun topic. So when you're going to a general healthcare professional, you must have that knowledge that they're only going to treat symptoms, period, right? Now, this program is called Do No Harm. Well, as far as I'm concerned, when you went to get an antibiotic, you were harmed. Mm-hmm. Your body responded. That's harm. Okay? Nowhere in my experience as a practitioner would I have to be concerned about side effects or making somebody worse. There's just no such thing. Okay? So when you look at, let's take, here's my beef with the general healthcare professional, your GP. Okay. As compared to someone like myself, you're going to get some kind of 9 times out of 10 times out of 10, you're walking out with an antibiotic, some kind of pain medication, or a steroid. Mm-hmm. Am I wrong?
Yeah, or antihistamine.
Really, has anyone left with anything else? Because I've not heard of that. Okay, so that's what a general healthcare professional does. They're going to give you some kind of prescription for pain. They're going to give you an antibiotic or a steroid. Okay, fabulous. Thank you very much. All of those things have side effects. All of those things cause more harm than good. Look it up. So now, here's my beef with antibiotics. That's for what? Bacteria. To fight bacteria. We have billions, trillions, I don't know the number, of bacteria in a healthy human being, a healthy body that is supposed to be in harmony and balance, and it's healthy and it's right. Okay? When we have an infection, that terrain has shifted. It's out of balance, right? From an ideal health perspective. What does an antibiotic do? Just like chemotherapy, it has no selectivity. It just wipes out the bacteria, all the good guys and all the bad guys. It just wipes you out. I promise you, and I've seen this time and time again and time again, which is why I'm doing this show. You're going to get an infection in 3 weeks, a new one, or the same one. Usually what happens is they take an antibiotic, someone takes an antibiotic for whatever, and next thing you know, they have a UTI, yeast infection, or another respiratory infection, whatever it is, in 3 weeks. Now, taking a probiotic will help thwart that, or working with me will thwart that, but why even take it at all? Why not support the immune system that allowed or couldn't handle, the pathogen in the first place? It's one point. Okay, so that's one point of view. That's one thing to consider. The other thing to consider is antibiotics do harm to the liver. We need our liver, okay? There's over 500 different functions for the liver. I'm not going to get into that, but you're harming your liver. The next thing that rubs me the wrong way about this general practitioner approach is that that's all they have in their toolbox is this antibiotic. Whether you have a mold infection, a yeast infection, a viral infection, a parasitic infection, did I name them all? Fungal infection, you're getting an antibiotic. Okay. That's what you're getting. Now, someone comes into my office, I will know whether it is viral, bacterial, mold, etc., or a combination of. We'll talk about their lifestyle, what's going on, what kind of stresses are going on. Maybe you need a chiropractic adjustment. It is a comprehensive assessment, and it takes about an hour. And I'm looking at the whole person. I'm not just handing them, here, take an antibiotic and go home. Okay? Yeah. Bye. Okay. So we're the other thing too is once I know what the microorganism, that is problematic, or so to speak, I still don't treat it as an enemy. We don't do that. We look at the whole picture, but then I look through muscle testing to support what's going to support this immune system and get it back into balance. And I got to tell you, I'm going to be looking at products from a whole food supplement company like Standard Process, and I'm going to be looking at herbs. Now, when we're talking about herbs, there are thousands, tens of thousands of plants on this planet that are medicines to us, okay? That's my toolbox. So, can you see the smoke coming out of my ear? So now each person there's this personal, individual, specific, everyone has their own needs. So some person walks in with a viral infection and I'm giving them cat's claw to help them balance. And someone else, I'm giving them an antioxidant formula. Or, there's no standardization here whatsoever. When it comes to, because we're looking at the individual. But yet, when you go to a general practitioner, you're getting an antibiotic. And that's it. And that's gross. The other thing, like I said, please look at the side effects of antibiotics, the side effects of steroids. Steroids, typically prednisone, read the side effects of that. I'm just like chuckling when I was researching this yesterday on Dr. Mercola's website, and I'm chuckling like, are you kidding me? I'd rather not take it. Now, I understand now to the misinformed, ill-informed, naive, whatever, ignorant, I get it. We're so conditioned and we trust. And I understand that. The system is a mess. So it's not, but once you're educated, you can't shut this off. The steroids are there to supply a synthetic hormone that our bodies are supposed to be producing on their own if we were in harmony and balance with all that is. And so again, it's a matter of getting back into harmony. What does that look like? Does this person need a supplement? Does this person need, and get them back into balance. I could keep going. Are you ready for my next?
Hold on. Yeah. So much.
Okay.
So much. I'm going to forget.
Yeah.
There's so much that you just said. One of the things that came to mind also is that this is how do I articulate this? This concept that when you talked about very early on, when we go to a doctor, we have to worry about being harmed, based on what they give us, and that you've never had to worry about that with something that you recommend to people. Right. But I was thinking about it this morning. I was thinking about that, with their limited scope in the medical field, so medical practitioners, they only they have to study so much, first of all, right? They have so many years and all this stuff. And that's part of why we put them on this pedestal and create this like grand power differential. Okay. So with all due respect to all the, years of, intense training, it's limited in its scope, which you just kind of nailed, in a nutshell, right? What's our body made up of, Rebecca?
What does it mean? Well, water.
Yeah. and what's the, and cells, right?
Right.
And what do our cells need to function?
Nutrients,
right? Micronutrients, macronutrients, they need water, right? And the proper energy flow to kind of conduct it all. Right. How much are medical doctors trained in micronutrients and macronutrients? Do they still just get a 45-minute seminar? I don't know, maybe it's a little more today, but not very much for what our bodies, the basics. So I just want to put that into perspective. And I was having so many different thoughts. Let's see. But that, going back to that you don't have to worry about that, right? About the side effects per se of your recommendations. And they do, but there's just such negligence there. That's a whole nother topic. How often do people go and the doctors don't tell them about what to worry about, what to look for? And then on the flip side, when someone comes to a holistic practitioner, well, we do need to worry about side effects from the standpoint of we have to know a little bit about what that field does, because a lot of the times people come in, if I see someone and consult with someone and they will let me know what medications sometimes are already on. Let's say they're having all this dizziness. Well, what medications are you on? That's like dizziness is one of the top side effects of many medications. So it's like on I don't want to make it sides, but on the holistic end of the spectrum, practitioners do have to have some knowledge of that. Talk about a chiropractic physician, which, historically gets kind of poo-pooed by medical doctors, right? Mm-hmm. But they're physicians, chiropractic physicians. They go through more medical training than the MDs do go through, any type of natural, nutrition or anything else kind of training. So I was thinking about that. I don't know if it's making sense, but it's like the doctors don't need to know about that, but they don't have time. They don't have time to study any of the other stuff. So they're taught to just learn, study what's within their scope, and they don't have time and they don't create the time. And their system doesn't create the time for them to go out. Now, are there doctors who now, become integrative doctors and they go out and they get additional credentials and certifications in integrative medicine? Yes, great. That's fantastic. It's creating a bridge. But we're talking about in general, historically and currently, the vast majority of MDs out there, general practitioners, right? And so they don't have time to study. They don't know about the herbs. They fear that because they don't know the side effects. But there are tools that they could utilize. There's a huge natural medicine database that they can subscribe to for something like $99 a year, which is nothing, where they can input any medicine out there and any natural herb or supplement, and this database will come up and give them, potential side effects or interactions of any individual or combination. Like, why aren't they doing that? Right. So I'm just going off on a little tangent there too. But again, just kind of trying to paint the picture for some of the, just the nonsense. It just doesn't make sense that we're not doing things from a more wise perspective, given all the resources that we have access to. Right.
It's nonsense to us. It's nonsense to us. And that's we need to get everyone on board to recognize how nonsensical it is on a, we need a revolution.
Yeah, we do.
We need everyone to wake up and say, this system sucks and we need a new one.
Yeah. And the last thing I want to chime in about what you already said was that, when people go to see you, or when people go to see a doctor and are given antibiotics, not only are they more likely to get the infection again or a new infection again shortly thereafter, but they're also missing out on the opportunity for what their body's trying to tell them. Something's out of balance. You're throwing it more out of balance, like you just talked about. But then you're missing, from our perspective, when we work with people, you're missing, what are the stresses going on? What's the lifestyle piece? What are you missing that is making you vulnerable in a certain area or system of your body? What's the emotional components going on? What are the lessons that you get to experience and shift and be empowered to shift? yourself, given the awareness and the tools. So you're missing all of that. It's no wonder we have such a sick nation, because we just systematically or chronically mistreat issues and continue to suppress the real, the real valuable things that we could be changing.
And that's, for those of you who haven't watched our episode called Self-Awareness, I would recommend that because it'll help lay a foundation for what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Let me just bring up a couple of things. I had someone in yesterday who, over the phone, of course, and she's telling me, her daughter's sick and she broke down, and last week she was diagnosed with bronchitis, and this week it's turned into pneumonia, and then she's on antibiotics, and I'm like, oh, okay, I've heard this, how many times have I heard this? And I started to chuckle. I'm like, what is bronchitis? I'm like, let me see what it looks like, because I just checked the bronchioles. I just checked the trachea, the bronchioles, the respiratory system, and the lungs my way, energetically. But what is this bronchitis? And I looked it up because I'm wondering what makes them just give somebody an antibiotics, for a bronchitis. And the definition is inflammation of the bronchioles.
Right.
And the pathogen, again, could be a wide array of molds, bacteria, virus. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? It's it's number one, it's inflammation, which is, we want to get to the bottom of the inflammation. And two, you're not even sure what pathogen it is. Just give them an antibiotic. I'm just, good job. Yeah. Good job.
That there lies the essence of the dilemma with the system.
I'm just flabbergasted. Okay. So now what I want to tell, way back when in the 12 years ago, whatever, I had this woman who was mourning her husband who had died of cancer. And I'm telling this story to make a point here, that she said that it was, the cancer had spread undetected. By the time they got it, he had passed. She said he had perfect blood work. And I'm like, whoa. His complete blood count was pristine, and yet this man had cancer and died. And I thought, that's good. That's good. And I want to talk about the complete blood count when you get a blood test. And I'm not making light of her story whatsoever. I'm just appalled. Now, the complete blood count is what they're looking at. These are parameters that man has designed that are healthy and in range, and that does change if you notice. For instance, cholesterol parameters change and so on. But that count is only looking at the values in the blood, obviously, not in the cellular environment, which is what we should really be interested in, because we need to know what's going on in the cell, not in the bloodstream necessarily. So you're only getting that one point of view, which is incomplete, and it misses a lot of. I don't use a complete blood count. I won't. I'll entertain, people want to show it to me. I'm like, all right, I'll look at it. But I can, now where does my pompous attitude come from? I have a certification in TBM, and I've been practicing contact reflex analysis close to 20 years now, 15, 20 years. So if this interests you, now I'm doing my own technique now called source energy technique, which is a compilation of those two practices and all sorts of different things coming in. And I know what the hell I'm talking about. I must sound like a jackass to somebody, but this is my reality, and it can be yours, where you can know that you know that you know, where whether someone has a strep infection, a staph infection, and it's all through energy medicine, which is the wave of the future, as Dr. Oz had quoted, and that's on my website, is that we, me and Mary, are the future. So why not join us? Did you have any I mean, I just love the itis. It's just inflammation.
I know.
It's just inflammation. It doesn't tell us anything.
Yeah.
Other than let's go further. Let's go further and figure out why there's inflammation. That's how I would do it. Let's go further. That's one. I have an itis. Okay, so let's keep digging.
Yeah. Real quick side note too, when you talk about blood work in general, when you get results back from blood work, and it shows, sometimes they simplify it for you, right? Sometimes they make a nice little chart for the patient to see, like, oh, normal range, suboptimal, right? Okay. Well, the normal range isn't optimal health, which is what should be our goal, right? If you show those same, like I remember having blood work done many years ago, close to 20 years ago, bring it to a nutritionist who had a nursing background and who pointed this out to me and said, Mary, okay, here, something specific was low, but it wasn't showing as very low in the medical model of the results, because what they're looking at is standard deviation, okay, from the average American. Okay, so the average American could be extremely unhealthy, and it's like, oh, well, you're in normal range. Great. Like, you could be dying, I mean, right. And again, I'm laughing because it's just ridiculous. It shouldn't it be like, here's optimal range, like optimal health, what your body's capable of. And that way, then when you're out of that range, we know something's out of balance. So it's like, well, close enough. You're close enough to the average Joe who's may or may not be very healthy. Great. Move on. So I just wanted to sidebar about the blood work, because that came to mind. Again, illustrating the difference between these approaches and how they look at information, what they do with it. But also with the itis, Rebecca, the bronchitis, all the itises, that's one of the top reasons that people go to visit their general practitioner. So I looked that up because I was curious. I knew that like back problems was, in the top few on most lists, which I always laugh at. It's like, the last person I would go to if I'm having back problems, usually back pain, right, or an injury to the back, unless it's you get a car accident and I don't know, unless something really extreme happens. I'm going to a chiropractor. I'm going to someone who knows the whole system and specializes in care of those types of issues that manifest as back problems. You go to your general practitioner, they're going to refer you to someone else. They might give you some pain medication. Anyway, so I won't go off on that tangent, but back problems is on there. But then most of the other ones have to also do with lifestyle issues and inflammation, which is a lifestyle, related type of chronic health. Chronic health conditions fall under that. I remember years ago, maybe 15 or more, Time magazine had that on the cover. It was inflammation, the silent killer. And it's like, how many chronic health conditions have to do with inflammation? And it's all about lifestyle. These are all things, when I say lifestyle, we mean things that you can manage on your own. You don't need to take something for it. You don't need to take a drug for it. You certainly don't want to take steroids for it, like Rebecca talked about. But so top reasons, on some lists, some studies show skin disorders are the number one reason people go to the doctor. And a lot of those have to do with inflammation. A lot of those, from a systemic approach, from a holistic approach, have to do with perhaps liver health, gut health being out of balance, right? But that's not what the doctors, they're going to give you some lotions, potions, creams that are anti-inflammatory, or, one of those types of things, steroids usually. Joint disorders, meaning osteoarthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, all the different itises again, right? That have to do with what is arthritis? Inflammation of the joints. Why are they inflamed? What's going on? Let's just suppress the inflammation since your body isn't doing it on its own. Cholesterol problems. That's a whole hour on that, folks. Don't get us started on that. A lot of misinformation on cholesterol, but again, something that is mismanaged, grossly mismanaged, in my opinion, by the medical fields. Much misinformation in there, and the drugs that they quickly, one of the most commonly prescribed medications are cholesterol medications, and they are defeating the purpose. But anyway, upper respiratory problems, which we talked about, and then we get into anxiety, depression, mood disorders, which that could be a separate video as well. Neurological disorders, high blood pressure, again, another one, kind of like the cholesterol, lifestyle factors, Headaches and migraines, again, something that's never really been treated well by the medical field, has been eradicated and, resolved by many holistic practitioners, especially chiropractors and others. And then diabetes, being maybe 10th on the list there. But just to give you an idea, how many of those are things that you actually can manage on your own, or there's a bigger issue going on that your general practitioner is most likely to miss, and it's no disrespect to them. It's, it's just that they're taught what they're taught, and it's missing the mark.
Yes, missing the mark. I love that. It's disease management. So, and we're not for disease management. We're for getting to the root cause and healing. So know the difference. And then you can make an educated decision. Like I said, I've said in previous videos, I will take a pain medicine if that is what I need at that time, because the pain is excruciating, but I'm not going to stay in that state, but it would be to cope until I can get the proper care. So it's having the wisdom and to navigate your own health, with just more wisdom. Rather than ignorance. So I hope that we've enlightened you. Feel free to call me or comment or anything. Become empowered. I hope you've been empowered. And if I could be of any assistance, that would be fantastic. But yeah.
Yeah, we realize it's a learning curve, so right. Congratulations for showing up. And if you're still watching, that you've taken the time to be open and continually learn and empower yourself. I just wanted to touch on what, Rebecca, earlier you had kind of said, if it seems like I have a pompous attitude or whatever about this, I wanted to clarify that, because my experience sometimes with some medical practitioners is that they come off as really arrogant.
Yeah.
And we've kind of empowered them because we put them on that pedestal as a society, or with the system approach. And when we're speaking about this, if we sound arrogant, really, I don't believe it's arrogance. I believe it's confidence, but it's also frustration, because we're people who care about people and want people to be well. And I'm sure most, if not every single medical doctor cares about people and wants them to be well too. But it's frustrating for us when you have access and knowledge to this awareness about a more practical, common sense, healthy approach to things, and to see people continually, getting harmed where they're seeking to heal. So that's where that's coming from. And one last tidbit, because we always talk about physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. Just a tidbit that came up for me. I was thinking about it, and originally this topic, and why this separation, and how we tend to, over time, we've put doctors on a pedestal, medical doctors on a pedestal, and create this power differential, this grand power differential. And that, what is that about on an energetic or spiritual plane? It's the energy of separation, right? And like I talked about before, that when I talked about germs and germ phobia and who got me sick, puts us in that victim mode. And Rebecca and I are always here seeking to empower people and remind us, wake us up to our own power. And we're more powerful than we realize. And the energy of separation is the old energy. That's an old concept, and it's not where, again, it's not the concept of the future, which is from a spiritual plane, is more about we're all one. When you deal with energy healing, it's an easy concept to grasp. But so when Rebecca says only God heals, she's talking about a higher power that also resides within us. It's not a separate thing. It's not I'm separate from God, from some higher power. It's and people separate themselves from medical doctors. And they kind of treat them as gods, right? And that's what I'm talking about energetically, this energy of separation. And then even within the system, the individual medical doctors are so we're taught to blindly trust them, right? Like blindly trust God, blindly trust the medical doctors. Then the MDs who are in the system and learning and being taught in the medical field are taught to blindly trust what they're taught, what's being passed down to them from that system. Which again, it's just kind of missing the mark and creating this whole lack of awareness, which really the true power comes from ourselves. And again, just going back to tying it all together, if we're all one, if we all have access to this grand power, this amazing power to heal, why not get the instructions? Why not start studying it and learning about it? So that's why I love that Rebecca's putting this work together to teach her source energy technique to everyone, because it's been so beneficial to me over the years. So I'm really excited about this. Hope you guys get a little bit fired up like we do. And we thank you for tuning in. And you can find our contact info below in the description of the video. And appreciate you giving it a like, subscribe to our channels, and share it with anyone that you think might benefit. And please contribute with your comments in the discussion below. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for watching.
Bye for now.